our last presentation's coming up from George Sakalides. We have Graham from the logistics end. It's going to give you guys a bit of a rundown about what's happening tomorrow at the Pack Down. We do have one more presentation, Graham. Do you want to do now or afterwards? Afterwards, great, thanks. So our last presentation before we break for afternoon tea is George Sakalides, Managing Director of Magnetic Resources, founding director and shareholder of the company since incorporation. I was the former managing director until October 2014, and he was reinstated as MD in April 17. George is an exploration geophysicist with over 30 years' experience, and his career has included extensive gold, diamond, base metals, iron ore, and mineral sands exploration, and he's been involved in a number of significant mineral discoveries. Please welcome George. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. It's good to be speaking here once again. I think I presented a number of years ago. Disclaimers which you can read later in your leisure. In terms of the corporate overview, the company has 216 million shares, listed in 2007. It's very tightly held. The top 20 shareholders have close to 80%. We've had a very strong share performance, as you can see, and over the last couple of years we've gone from about 12 cents up to currently around $1.30 today. Our main assets are at Laverton and Leonora in WA. So we've got 260 square kilometres at Laverton and about 213 in the Leonora region. Our main project is at Laverton. It's called the Hawksnest 9 project. Next door is the Lady Julie project, and there is one other one called Homeward Bound South. We're obviously looking for multi-million ounce deposits, and we've mainly used geophysics, ground magnetics and soil sampling to make this discovery called Hawksnest 9. And we have done a lot of drilling, and currently we're up to close to 40,000 metres of drilling, average depth around 50 metres, which tells you the deposit that we've found is extremely shallow. And we're targeting a maiden resource by November this year. Yeah, so where we are, there's some very large ore bodies, as you can imagine. The biggest one is Sunrise Dam, around 10 million ounces, and then Wallaby, which is only 15 k's to the south of HN9, which is around 7 million ounces, and the Jupiter deposit, which is over a million ounces. So there's some large ones there. Obviously there's some big ones around Leonora, but our main focus is Laverton. So our position is, we've made this discovery next door to two operating mines and with their own processing plants, so it's very unusual in that we've made this discovery so close. You can see our acreage in blue there, the 260 square k's at Laverton. To the south and east is the Goldfields company holding Granny Smith and Wallaby, and to the southwest is the Dacian ground. They're operating at Jupiter and we're operating at Westralia. You can see our HN9 deposit is very close to both of those, and that's the main thing we're talking about today. Great infrastructure, a sealed road from Laverton to Leonora, plus the old Laverton Road, quite well used areas, and there is a gas pipeline as well, and I know one of the mines obviously uses that. It's well, there's I guess in terms of flights, there's about 3 flights per week, so it's quite easy to get to. Going into the structure and the geology, looking at making comparisons with some of the existing deposits and showing what we have it by comparison. So you can see that 3 main deposits in the area. They have similarities in that they have intrusions at depth, in some cases In other cases, intrusions come to surface. Commonly, it's cyanide intrusions. But the other thing they have in common are these lodes or shear zones, which are in some cases almost horizontal, and in other cases dipping to the east or to the west. So that seems to be the common theme throughout. So when you compare what we've discovered, you can see that in the what I call the thickened stack load zone, we're seeing these multiple zones at depth, and you can see the comparison. That's in the top 150 metres. You can see the Jupiter deposit, that's mainly in the top 200. With Wallaby, they're finding these horizontal plates going down to greater than a kilometre. So they repeat all the way through, and that's obviously one of the main targets. Okay, so how we discovered this in the first place, we were working about 5 kilometres to the north, and we were getting some intersections, but not anything fantastically robust. But what we did recognise was the structure and the geochemistry and the trend. So what we did is we chased them going south, chased the fault lines which showed up from the ground magnetics and the geochem, and we basically covered this area and uncovered a 3 kilometre by 400 metre sized soil geochemical anomaly, ranging between 0.2 and 0.6 of a gram. So we straight away realised that this was significant, and we've been drilling there for the last 2 years, and we've put down close to 800 holes. And you can see most of the drilling has been focused in on the anomalous gold areas shown in red, but lately we've been drilling in areas that trend away from there, and some of these are plunging chutes that go in different directions, so we'll talk a bit more about that. So those areas have been our main focus, but we are moving on to other things as well. So this is the same area. Every one of those purple dots has got an intersection greater than 2 grams. Note that as you go from north to south, there's a change in the orientation down the southern end. That area there is where we have that thickened zone with the multiple chutes, and that's of interest. We'd like to do more work there, but at the same time, we're still drilling and trying to understand the size of what we have. What we see on that map is 3 kilometres long. The other thing that I should mention is outcrops. So there's a series of workings scattered along the 3 kilometre length. They're very small pits. But I guess the people that opened those pits up didn't realise that the whole thing was continuous. So we've done some initial wireframing work, and we're showing that it's continuous all the way through. So we're pretty excited by that, the prospect of doing a resource in November. So most of the mineralisation is associated with shallow porphyries in shear zones. So what I'm going to show you in the next couple of slides is the going from south to north in cross sections. And this is the one I showed you before, some pretty robust hits. And we do get some high grade zones, but generally quite thin, but very good grade. And going north, you can see that these 20-degree dipping lodes actually outcrop, and some quite good grades and thicknesses. And as you go north, it's the same sort of thing. Note this is in the top, 20 to 30 metres, so it's right near surface, and even further north. So that's the theme on the northern end, and as we go south, it gets a bit more complicated. So what have we been doing recently? Obviously, we've done a lot of drilling in the last 2 years, but those blue areas are where we've just finished drilling. We weren't able to drill to the north here before. We got Mines Department approval finally, and that drilling program has just finished. So basically, we're chasing that soil, the anomalous shear zone. Soil geochem doesn't work in that area because there's a regional drainage that cuts across. So we've just finished that drilling. Visually, it looks okay, but we have to wait for the results, of course. But what we're hoping is that it joins up to HN10, where we have anomalous soil geochem as well. And if it does, it'll be a total length of 4.5 kilometres, which is pretty big for any gold system. So currently it's around 3 Ks. The other thing that we've found, it's a couple of, let's call them deeper workings on the northeastern end, and they seem to be aligned along the east-northeast drainage, which is a different direction. And hopefully we'll get some results there as well. So with most of these areas, it's a bit of a learning process. And with this drilling, the latest lot of drilling, we'll have a fair idea on the length of it. And we're hoping to find other areas as well. You can see right down the southern end, we got an anomalous hit around 7 metres at 2.5 grams. So we're following that up as well. So that's developing quite well. And in November, December, we're planning to do a shallow seismic survey. And that's to try to understand the geometry at depth rather than just going out and putting holes everywhere. We'd like to get a bit of a framework. And at this stage, there's 2 seismic lines planned. Potentially there'll be a third, one going north-south and 2 east-west. There are some older seismic lines, one that goes over Wallaby and one over the Old Leverton Road, and we'll reprocess those as well to try to get an overview for that whole region. Look, our feeling is that these areas are not very well understood, even though there's been some bigger mining operations here and companies have been working here. If we can come up with a 3-kilometre target, which is potentially growing, it just tells you that there's a great chance we'll find a lot more than what we see today. Okay, so directly adjacent to Hawksnest 9 is a project called Lady Julie. Lady Julie is an area that we've done, well, there's actually 3 lines of gold mineralisation. We're focused on the northernmost area. In that area, we're getting similar intersections in similar types of rocks as Hawksnest 9. And there's over 90 intersections greater than a gram. So we've just recently done some drilling there, and we're waiting on the results to see whether that zone 16 metres at 1 gram continues at depth, and obviously along strike as well. Because it's so close to HN9, we're talking 3 Ks away, the inventory of gold that we find at Lady Julie will add to what we have at HN9. So that's part of the plan. There's one other area called Homeward Bound South, and we've done work there. That area has got a shear zone cutting right through the middle of it called a Federation Shear. And we've got some quite thick intersections close to surface and open-ended at depth with ending in mineralisation. So we'll be testing those at depth. We already have done a drilling program and we're waiting on results. Same sort of thing, shallow intersections and looking to see if they continue at depth. Quite an experienced board, many years experience, company secretarial as well. And some good connections to investments from people overseas as well. Okay, so in summary, we expect most of the drilling to be finished. We are planning to try to put out a resource statement by the end of November. It's 3 kilometres long. We're hoping it grows to 4.5 kilometres in length. The seismic survey will give us an idea of the depth potential, and clearly most of the resources in the area have got the depth, and they're part of big pipe systems that go down to kilometres depth. So that's the big prize at the end of it, if we can find that. Both Lady Julie and HN9 are part of the same package, and I guess everyone knows already about how close we are to these major operations. So that gives us some commercial potential to deal with other companies in the area, and it's quite unusual to have them as close as what we have. I will talk briefly about our other projects. We originally were in this area for iron ore. We sold the iron ore tenements that are in red, but recently we picked up 3 tenements Obviously, Julimar look-alike on the top end. These areas, you can probably see it a bit clearer in our booth 92 if you want to come through. But we can see these later intrusions cutting across the Archean landscape, and they look quite interesting. And we've only just started a tiny bit of work in the field, but obviously we're focused on the goal, but we're having a bit of a look at this as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We've just run over a little bit of time, so we won't have an opportunity for questions, I'm afraid, George.
Okay.
But thank you. Before you guys go, we've just got Graham from the logistics side of things just running through the pack-down scenario for tomorrow. Thanks, Graham.
Thanks, Chairman. Folks, as has always been the case, on Wednesday it's required of us, in order to be ready for the dinner tomorrow night, that a lot of the booths need to be removed from the positions they're in. So I'll read this out for particularly the people who are here for the first time. For all people with a booth, particularly those who are here for the first time, there is two sets of booths. There's the booths, as you can see, going around the outside of the main marquee. Those booths can stay there. However, the gear that's in the booths, I would suggest you remove. The other booths, which are inside of that, every booth we have to take down and get ready for the dinner in 2.5 hours. So it's vitally important that before 12:40 tomorrow, those people have got everything out of their booths, and they've made arrangements for someone to come and collect their gear, or else it's going to end up somewhere, but it won't be in where your booth is, because all of that has to go. And it's absolutely important that there is no one in the marquee from 12:40 onwards. We've got all sorts of stuff going around in there, equipment, 30 guys, and a lot of other stuff that could be dangerous if people were walking around or just sitting in there. So we ask for your assistance in making sure that everything that you've got that needs to go is gone by 12:40, because we'll have no option but to ask you to move from where you are. Thank you very much.